I'm Garrett Cortese with Boating Magazine, and today I'm at the Centurion Supreme factory in Merced, California with VP of Marketing Amy Mozzie. And we've taken an awesome tour of the entire process of how these boats are built. And a lot of times what potential buyers are looking at, they're wondering what's different about some of these boats. But when you take a tour like this, you really find out what's the same. And it's a really cool process that both brands go through when they're being built here. And Amy's just going to tell us all about it. So let's start at the beginning and start off with what we started with.
Absolutely. Well, the most instrumental part of our process I always start with is mold prep. I mean, mold prep doesn't sound like a lot. You know, you're conditioning the mold, you're waxing it, you're looking for any imperfections in the mold before it's introduced into production. If there are any imperfections or something that's not quite right about the preparation, that's going to be transferred to every part we pull out of that mold. After mold prep, they tape off the different colored areas, and each series of our boats has a different gel coat scheme, typically that they're ordered in. So you can start to understand what model it is when you introduce those tape lines, and those are all done by hand.
Right.
And by our guys in there that have been doing them, some of them as long as 30 years. And then at that point, they take it into spray and they spray one color section at a time.
Right. So you're saying that a boat can go in and out multiple times based on its custom color scheme. Like, how many options are there? Because it sounds like there's a ton.
Well, there are. And we have the most options on the RI series. Okay. So you can get 3 different gel coat schemes, technically 4. And then you have 37 different gel coat colors that you can use in most areas of the boat.
I'm not good at math, but that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Once we've gotten through that part of spraying, then we go into lamination.
We can't do anything until we add that fiberglass to the boat itself. And we start with a skin coat, which is essentially chopped fiberglass and resin sprayed inside the boat. And it gives it that consistent inconsistency, I say. So yeah, it kind of throws the fiberglass strands every which way. That actually helps the exterior of the boat shine more deeply. Then beyond that, we add engineered fiberglass cloth that is wetted with resin so it can harden like the rest of the boat. And we add layer after layer after layer of that.
And so what about some of those higher stress points of the boat, like where you're going to mount the tower or the swim step?
So we laminate in aluminum plates.
Okay.
And then we use that so we can through bolt things like the tower.
So moving on from lamination, we get into like the core, the stringer system, which is another part of the strength of the boat and the basis for one of Centurion's signatures, ram fill.
Absolutely. So we'll move to pull and grind is what we call that department. So we affix the stringer system to the inside of the hull with plexus, which is a chemical adhesive that changes the molecular structure of the fiberglass to make 2 pieces one.
Okay.
So it welds it to the inside.
So once it's there, it's there.
It's there. It's not coming out. But we do that for the unibody construction element. So there are no mechanical fasteners. There's no rattling. There's no vibration resonating through the boat when you're out on the water on a rough day. So it really gives it a strong spine almost, you know, the chassis of the boat. It also is a great point for the engine to mount. But also it is the basis for our subfloor ballast system, which is beneath the floor, outside of your storage areas, so you don't have to worry about it encroaching.
You truly see that from that part of the process.
They're
you get
large.
to peek inside. Yeah, they are huge.
Large cavities.
Compartments. Right?
Yeah.
And so at this point in the process, you still can't even, as you alluded to, tell the difference from Centurion to Supreme unless you're really in the know, just because of how similar the processes are and how similar you treat them.
The stringer system looks almost identical.
Which is really cool and speaks volumes to the overall process and the quality that you're getting in either line, Supreme and Centurion.
Agreed.
We're now flipping the boat upside down, correct?
Right. So, well, first we got to pop it out, which we got to see.
Yes,
it's
this
so
is
cool.
actually one of my favorite things to watch because it is very cool. It's coming out of the mold. You have no idea what's in there. And then it comes out, you see, oh, that one's got some glitter or that one's a bright pink. Also, during that process, there's that other booth in that area, which I was surprised to see, but it's where they do the rhino lining.
Yes. The great thing about rhino lighting is it dampens the noise, but it also gives you a consistent look in your storage areas when you open those hatches up, but it doesn't hold water. But yes, we do rhino line every single hull of every Centurion and Supreme.
Which I think is unique to the industry as far as I remember. So it's a really nice touch to be able to have that when you are opening your storage areas and like, that looks finished.
Yeah.
And so this is where then the deck and the hull get wheeled down over to assembly line and you really start to see the boat come together with all the parts and pieces that are being put onto it.
Yes, when they first come into the building, they're separate, deck and hull, and they go down that whole line one and they stay separate. But along the way, they get everything from wiring to ballast hose to ram fill if it's a Centurion. It'll get ballast pumps if it's a Supreme. You've also got the introduction of a lot of our signature options like the Silent Stinger wake plate or Quick Surf Pro. Those types of things you can start seeing bolted onto the boat.
And it's also in this first line where the engine gets installed.
The heart of the boat.
Gotta go.
Yeah, that is a really cool process too, because they hoist the engine up and mount it on that stringer system with a we saw affix and pull and grind.
And so then after that first part of the line, I noticed that sort of at the, if you call it the back of the factory, is where they're doing subassembly for other parts and pieces that then get added into the boat.
Right. That's what really keeps the production process moving. Is we have the smaller parts, for instance, the amp board. Same thing with the side panels, with the upholstered part of the side panel, as well as the cup holders, the speakers, the wireless charging cell phone holder. All of that gets mounted in the side panel, and then that whole panel gets put into the deck and liner of the boat.
Speaking of upholstery, we then moved into that department of the factory, which was really cool to see because they truly are craftsmen when they put all of those different pieces together.
They build it from nothing. They essentially have a CNC machine that cuts out the pattern in the vinyl, and they'll have to sew all of that together.
And it's, again, with the Centurion and Supreme thing, it is the same thread that is sewing these parts together.
Yep.
So you're getting the same like high strength thread, high strength interior. So if you're stepping on your upholstery, you're not going to get the ripping. And it just goes to show, again, the whole Centurion Supreme balance throughout the factory process.
Well, the quality of the spraddling vinyl with the 17 mil top coat is the same for each. So that resiliency is built into an RI interior, just like it's built into an S240 interior.
And so what helps seal then the deck to the hull?
We call it a reverse shoebox fit. So the deck ends up pushing out on the hull. It doesn't just cap the hull. That helps us with strength. So that's the part that is really, really key in this part of the process. However, we also want to make sure the way that we affix the deck to the hull stays. We do that with plexus.
Okay.
So the same material that we use to affix the chassis system or the stringer system inside the hull, we use that to make sure that the deck caps the hull properly and stays that way.
So it's not going anywhere.
No.
So then we're continuing to mount more parts to the boat, including the tower.
The tower should already be on the deck at this point.
Okay.
So we mount the tower to the deck before the two are joined together. That way that you can make sure that that tower is mounted. It's not going to vibrate or loosen up, even on a rough day on the water.
Right. Okay, so after the tower is mounted and we've sandwiched the boat together and ensured that it's all right, you're starting to add other pieces like windshield, driver seat, some other inserts, and then it's off to lake test?
Yes. We have a ski lake. That's kind of what it is. It's got a turnout at either end, and they do about a 75-point check every one of our boats. If it's an RI, an NV, an FE, an S model from Supreme, they are all lake tested in that same way.
And any issues that come up can then just be addressed right here at the factory, which is obviously super convenient and what any dealer or buyer wants from a manufacturer.
Absolutely.
And so now that we've taken it out of lake testing and put it back on the assembly line, we're close to the finish line, literally.
We are. The finish, ironically, they're in final finish is what we call that department. And that department does several different things, one of which is a final QC. And at the very end of the process, once every checkbox has been checked and we're sure that this boat is as perfect as it possibly can be, then we wrap it and we ship them all over the world.
There you have it, folks. Come out here to Merced. Come see the Centurion factory. You will not be disappointed. Amy will show you a very good time and some very, very cool boats. For Boating Magazine, I'm Garrett Cortese, and we'll see you next time.